Welcome to Barn Banter, the podcast by Horse Illustrated. Each month, we bring guests to educate, entertain, or inspire you as you pursue the horsey lifestyle, plus an adoptable horse with a unique story. I'm Susan Friedland, an equestrian author, blogger, and speaker with a soft spot for off-track thoroughbreds. You can find me at my blog, saddleseekshorse.com, or on Facebook or Instagram at saddleseekshorse.
And I'm Holly Kakamis, editor-in-chief of Horse Illustrated and Young Rider magazines. You can find us at horseillustrated.com, youngrider.com, and Horse Illustrated and Young Rider on Instagram and Facebook. Welcome to Barn Banter's August episode. Susan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I am just super excited about our guest because it's someone I met at BreyerFest.
Oh, fun. And I did not get to go to BreyerFest this year, but I want to hear about it and what's going on and all the stuff that I missed and what's happening where you are.
Well, you missed the celebration horse was this so cool Norwegian fjord with a forelock that I think went down to her muzzle. I think her name's Flinka. I don't remember her full name. But long story short, I think I had a sighting of this horse before they became the Celebration Breyer. So a few years ago, I went to a dressage show. I had never been to a dressage show. Like, I had done the little virtual shows, and I've been to 3-day events and watched, and I've been to 100 jumper shows. And so I went to a dressage show thinking, if I'm going to embrace this as my life, I should probably, just see what it's like there. And long story short, I was walking around to the different, arenas, and I saw a fjord. And so I don't really know much about Norwegian fjords other than I love their manes with kind of that black stripe in the middle, and they look very sturdy. Never ridden one. And so I saw this fjord and I'm watching it trot around. It was so cute. And then it was like, wait a minute. It's doing tempi changes. Wait a minute. It's doing all these fancy dressage moves. And it wasn't expected, I guess, because when we watched the Olympics, these tall, lanky, warm bloods and that. And so it just kind of blew my mind. So I'm almost 100% sure it's the same horse and rider because I feel like not a lot of fjords do upper level dressage. And I know that this team is from the state of Wisconsin, and the show I was at was in the state of Wisconsin. So that was cool.
Sounds likely. Well, I have a fjord Breyer, and I am not like at, my adult age one to just be buying Breyers right and left, but I did see one that was so cute. It was Sweetwater Zora Bell is the one I have. But yeah, I just think they're so cute. And I love when a Breyer just strikes my fancy. I'm like, I have to have it. So
oh my
fun.
gosh. Well,
and I'm sad that I wasn't there to see.
I know. Horses. So another kind of fun thing. So with my new pony book swirl, my Wild Island pony, it's a Chincoteague full buckskin with one blue eye and one brown eye. And Breyer has yet to make the model. But anyway, so one of my local friends here is an artist, and she paints Breyers and stuff. So I said, hey, could you do a little swirl for me? So she did this darling, spitting images swirl for my book. And so I had it there on my shelf, and I had people asking to buy it. I was like, that one's not for sale. Maybe I should have said, maybe I should have said yes for $1,000 or something. Tested the waters.
What do they say? Everything is for sale for the right price. So there you go.
Oh my gosh. So that was really cool. And then we had the Misty of Chincoteague kind of life-size statue there. And the funniest thing, I have this sign that says, take a selfie with Misty. And I made a little planter box. So it looks like marsh grass, and, just went to Hobby Lobby and got that green styrofoam stuff and, the grasses, and I'm sticking them in, and then the sign stands in there so people know what to do. And a little boy, I'm guessing maybe 2-ish, 2.5, pulled out some of the grass and was handing it to his he was feeding Misty. It was so cute. And the mom was like, no, you can't. I'm like, oh, let him. This is great.
That's cute.
It's always a very feel-good time there.
Oh, well, that is very sweet. I'm sorry I didn't get to see the booth, but that sounds very cool. And I know where you are in Illinois, there have been some fires. Can you tell us if that's affecting your horse night?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fires aren't in Illinois, thankfully, but in Canada, here in Ontario, the air quality has been terrible. And I know I'm sure you've experienced this too in Southern California with the fires and that there's some days you just really shouldn't be riding or doing much at all with the horses because the air quality is bad. Even if you don't see smoke and ash in the air, the particles are not good. So Knight's had a little mini vacation, but he's all bundled up in his fly gear with his fly mask, fly boots, the fly, I don't even know what you call it, the neck thing that goes to the fly sheet. And he's living his best life out in a field with, I think, 4 other geldings. I mean, he goes out during the day and comes in at night. He wouldn't know what to do if he was left out all the time. It reminds me, so, you know how some dogs love their crates? Like they just it's their little cave and they take their toys in there and stuff. Knight loves his stall. I mean, he loves being out, but then when he comes in his stall, it's like he's got his alfalfa pile, he's got his salt, like you could tell he just enjoys being in his stall. Got the fan on.
That is probably a good place during the heat and the flies, so I don't blame him. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, should I go ahead and introduce our guest I know everyone's probably eager to hear. Like this is someone
please
that you
tell us about our guest that I met in real life and was so impressed by her, and she's so lovely. And I was like, will you please be on our show?
Absolutely. So, and we always love to talk to authors. I feel like because you're an author and I love to read, that we just end up talking to authors. But I think it's fun. We always get, a new perspective on something different every time. But Terri Farley has always loved horses. She outgrew her childhood allergy to them, taught middle school and high school and journalism in inner city Los Angeles before moving to Nevada. Terri is the author of internationally best-selling Phantom Stallion series and the 2026 Phantoms Family Picture Book series, both from Simon & Schuster. Her new book, Horse Girl: How Velma Braun Johnson Became Wild Horse Annie and Outsmarted the Mustang Killers of the West, is a new biography. I believe the release date is actually September, so it's right about to come out. But we wanted to get you that information a little ahead of time to get you excited, and we will be talking to her about that. So without further ado, here is Terri Farley. To celebrate Horse Illustrated's 50th anniversary in 2026, we are offering our Best of Horse Illustrated special collector's issue. It's available for sale now for $9.99 and includes 100 pages, with a look inside our very first issue in 1976, our favorite covers over the years, the history of a changing magazine, and award-winning stories throughout the years. You can order now at tinyurl.com/special50, and that's special-50. Our barn banter guest today is Terri Farley. Terri, thanks for joining us.
I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I had a burning question that I wanted to kick us off with before Susan gets started. And I'm sure it's one you get all the time, which means I was thinking about it and Susan was wondering. So we'll just ask it first. Are you related to Walter Farley?
I am not. I married a man named Farley. And I have to tell you, my mother had the same question. When I told her I was dating a guy named Corey Farley, she said, does this have anything to do with the Black Stallion? And I said, no, No, he's in my journalism class. He's cute. He has a convertible. It has nothing to do with Walter. And I did a little bit of research, and it turns out that Farley is a fairly common last name in Ireland. So that's where it came from.
Well, I just had to ask that because I grew up reading all the Black Stallion books.
Of course.
And I think most of us probably did. And then I know
Yes.
your book, The Phantom Stallion. So I just thought, I might as well ask.
Yes.
And it got my love of reading and starting to write my own stories, even as a kid. And you being a writer, I just thought that would be a fun question to kick us off with. But
Absolutely. But you know what? One of the things I realized as I grew up is there were very few girls in the Black Stallion books. And so when I started writing, I let the girls have the adventures. And also the contemporary West, my Mustangs would not know what to do in a racetrack barn or with the black or Satan yes, all those horses are in my head, but my horses are different. My mental stable is different.
Speaking of horses, Terri, so I did a little research. We met at Briarfest, and it was so fun to get to know you there a little bit, but I see you have a Substack, and I read this very charming but also kind of bittersweet story about a horse named Sweetheart, and I was wondering if you could share that with us.
I am happy to. When I was in elementary school, I had really severe asthma, and so I wasn't allowed around horses very often because I'd start wheezing all night. But I walked to school every day in a neighborhood near Los Angeles, and I'd always walked by this one house, and it had a big fence. I assumed that they had a swimming pool or something like that, and they were fencing kids out so they wouldn't drown. But one day when I was walking home from school, I went by the fence, and I heard a sound, which I'll replicate for you. I'm not a good horse. Anyhow, there was a horse whuffling and snorting behind that fence. I recognized the sound immediately, put down my books, looked around, and peeked through the fence, and I could see a brown and white pinto walking around in these people's backyard. And that first day, I didn't stick around very long because I had a very protective mother who would be looking at the clock when I walked in the door. So I hustled home. But all night I thought about that horse, and I almost believed that I dreamed her. But the next day I did not stay to help my teacher put away books and straighten chairs and stuff. I just headed out of school and went back there. And yes, I saw that horse again. I could hear her hooves moving around on their dichondra lawn. So I figured out that there was a tree with a branch that went right over the top of the fence. And I figured out that I could climb up there and look at her. And the reason I named her, not my horse, but I named her Sweetheart, is because she had a heart-shaped spot on her shoulder. I kept doing this for a few days, just looking at her. But she was so friendly. She would come sidle up to the fence, and she was right under that branch. And so I decided that I would go out on that branch, and there was a header board on the back of the fence, and I put my foot on that, and I swung my leg over her back, and I was astride her. Now, when I tell this story in schools, I underline the fact that there were so many things wrong with what I was doing. I was trespassing. I did not know anything about this horse. I mean, yes, she seemed sweet, but she could have just bucked me right off. She didn't. And I was the good kid in my family, but horses have often led me astray. So I started stopping there every day after school. I only rode her for like 5 minutes, but it really kicked off my imagination. I imagined that I was a knight with my hair curled up underneath my helm. I imagined that I was a Native American woman and I was riding my horse across the plains. For 5 minutes, we were in horse heaven. Until one day, the sliding glass door on the back of the house slammed open, and a man in business clothes, suit, tie, everything, came out on their deck. And I won't repeat what he said to me, but he was definitely very surprised to see a strange child riding his horse in his backyard. So I had pretty good communication with Sweetheart by now. I got her back over to the fence. I couldn't say anything. What was the explanation? There was none. Took her back over to the fence, got on the branch, dropped to the ground, picked up my books, started for home, and he followed me in his car. So it seems like I wandered around this Southern California neighborhood for days, but it was probably more like 10 minutes. But he did follow me. I kept taking turns, and his car kept... I know he probably figured out he had scared me half to death. So I went home. My mother didn't know about this story until she went to a presentation of mine and learned about it. But I never rode Sweetheart again. I did after school every day. I would put my hand up to the fence and she would snuffle through the slats in the board. And, but that did, as you said, it's a bittersweet story. I didn't get to ride her again, but it did open my mind to all kinds of creative stories that go along with horses.
Okay, so Terri, I'm also a writer, and I want to rewrite that, and I want the man to be nice and say, would you like to ride her? Because, I think about this a lot. Hopefully I'm not being too tangential, but if we want to share this most beautiful gift of horses with the next generation and, keep horses in people's lives, I feel like we all need to be invitational. And yes, you were, like you said, trespassing in that, but it's not like you were a hardened criminal riding as
No.
I'm sure you were a very sweet little girl. So
I was a little girl with glasses and breathing problems.
Aw. So after Sweetheart, who was the next horse that you formed a bond with?
It was a long time, but I would say it was with Ace. And in the Phantom Stallion books, readers have met Ace. In fact, it's interesting. They want a Breyer model of him as much as they do the Phantom Stallion. He's this humble little 14-hand horse in my books and in real life. Former Mustang. He's a Mustang. He has a Freeze brand on his neck. And I rode him for 10 days on a cattle drive across the Black Rock Desert in Nevada. And he tested me. I was covering this last great cattle drive for Nevada Magazine. And so I was trying to get set up with the organizers, the rancher and everybody, while everyone else, they were trying to have a cattle drive as a tourist thing. But they were real cowboys who really had no patience for, whatever you want to call them, dudes, tenderfeet. But they all picked their horses, and the last horse left in the corral was Ace. Like I said, he was a little guy, which was great for me because I'm only 5'2". He had a bunch of bites on his butt. Clearly the Zeta horse in the Remuda. So he was my horse for 10 days. And his coping skills as the Zeta horse kind of tended to be he would bully humans. And he would buck anytime he had an audience. Now, my riding skills are such that I can usually stay on, but I don't look very good doing it. Sometimes I ended up with my arms around his neck. that kind of doesn't look very good. But he would do that. In the Phantom Stallion first book, that roundup is almost exactly true. Where we came to an agreement that we were going to take care of each other instead of attack each other was one day we were out in the middle of the Black Rock Desert, and you did not want to get separated from your horse there. There was nothing around. I mean, kind of thing where you're wearing chaps, and if you have to go to the bathroom, somebody has to hold your horse. You have to, hide. Anyway, Ace started acting really weird. He was shaking his head, and then he was kind of twisting his body. And I thought, gosh, is he sick? Is colicking, or it didn't seem likely. Then he went down on his front knees, and I thought, oh, wait a minute. I have seen horses do this shaking head, shaking body thing when they're about to roll. And so I held onto my reins really hard. I hopped off, and the instant my feet touched the ground, he started rolling, saddle and all. And so we did this dance where he's rolling, I'm standing with the split reins, trying to hang on to him as he's going all over the place, to great laughter. But then he got up and he shook like a wet dog. And after that, he was the perfect pony. He was a cow pony. He did his job, and he let me catch him in the morning, which, in the dark with a bunch of brown horses moving around was tough. But we became really good friends. I tried to buy him, but because he was a really valuable cow pony, they didn't want to sell. So that's the second horse I bonded with.
Wow. So now I know before the Phantom Stallion series, which has been a lot of books over the course of years for you and very beloved by readers, you were a teacher. So maybe you can kind of walk us back to transitioning from teacher to prolific author. Was this happening at the same time, or just how did you get from, I know you're in Nevada today, from Southern California to Nevada?
I went to school in San Jose, California. I went to college there, and I was there for high school. I was the school mascot, the Mustang. I've got great pictures.
That's appropriate.
But when I went to college, it was hard to get a teaching job. I was waitressing after I got my credential, but I interviewed for a job that was in downtown Los Angeles, which was a pretty tough area at the time. And in fact, it turned out, although I didn't know this, that I replaced a teacher who had been beaten in her classroom. No one told me until Easter. So that's a long time from September to Easter. But I loved those kids, and I taught developmental reading. And what I figured out is a lot of these kids were indeed pretty tough. They were like third generation gang kids and things like that. But one way I could get them, and empathy is my thing. That's what I want. If I could have one thing that people got from my writing and from my teaching, it would be empathy. I found out that I could get to these kids with sad animal stories. I taught Steinbeck's The Red Pony. And if you remember, this little boy loves this pony, Gablin, so much. But one night he leaves the corral gate open. The pony gets out. It sounds like pneumonia. He's dying. Okay. And then the pony dies and vultures come in, and the kid is fighting the vultures. Okay. My students were sitting there like this, the boys. I had almost all boys. holding their hands so that the tears wouldn't spill out of their eyes. And I figured that out. I went, okay, they haven't been raised to be empathetic with people, but they will do it for animals. So we did Where the Red Fern Grows, where the dogs die, and we had all kinds of sad animal stories. So I had that in my mind when my husband got a job in northern Nevada. So I applied for the tough schools, which were nothing compared to Los Angeles. And at the same time I was teaching high school and middle school in Nevada, I was also writing stories. It was something that wouldn't go away. And I got, an assignment to go on that cattle drive. And one of the things that happened after Ace and I became friends was that one morning it rained really hard the night before, and there was like mist coming up off the playa. And I always wrote in the back, that's called writing drag, because just in case Ace relapsed and started bucking and putting on a rodeo, I wanted to be in the back. And I looked down this slot canyon, and it was misty, but I thought I saw a white horse. And just as I saw that white horse, Ace saw a cow break from the herd. He went after it like the good cow pony he was. And I forced him, after we got the cow back, forced him to go back to that slot canyon. There was nothing there. He was not acting like he could smell anything. He certainly just was impatient to keep going with the herd. But that started my idea, like, what if there was this wild white horse that came and went so quickly, people called him the Phantom. And so I started writing that story. I had no intention at all of writing a series. In fact, I was one of those terrible teachers that discouraged my kids from confining themselves to one author and one series. That's such a mistake. Such a mistake. But, so I got my comeuppance. I found an agent who was a dressage rider, and she loved the story and pitched it to HarperCollins. And they not only wanted the first book, they wanted 3. And I went, cool, I can do that. And she said, well, be careful because, you're still working. You have 2 children, little kids. Can you really do a series? I said, absolutely. I was not going to turn down that opportunity. And the truth is, going back to Sweetheart, I had horse stories in my brain all the time. So, I cut back to half-time teaching, and at the time I was department chair, so I scheduled all of my classes for very early in the morning, what they call zero period. I would start at 7 a.m. So I'd do my halftime and then go home and start writing at about noon till my kids came in the door from school. And it wasn't easy. It really was not easy because people are going, oh, you're not working now. So you want to go ski? You want to go ride bikes? No, I'm really working now. But that's how I transitioned. And eventually they wanted 6 books and then they wanted 8 books. And I realized I was not going to be able to keep teaching. I wasn't doing anything well. That's the working mother kind of a thing where your life is so segmented. But, so my own mother, who had been an artist and quit because she had kids, really urged me to take a year off, see if I had what it took to write my horse stories as a job. And I did. And turned out I wrote 24 books in the Phantom Stallion series. because people love our wild horses. They're in 27 countries. People love our wild horses.
Wow. Wow. So how many years, like what was the span for the 24 books to come out? Because that's a lot of books.
It was a lot of books. About 5 years. About 5 years. And they really wanted to shorten my deadlines, too. At first, they were going, can you do a book every other month? And I said, no, I absolutely cannot. This is a 250-page novel with a big cast of characters. And every book had, people say, well, what was your formula? I have no idea. I did not have a formula. It would be great to have one, but every story, there was a different horse character. It was a little easier because I knew the terrain. I knew how long it took Sam to walk to the barn. I knew where, like, the Lost Pony Canyon was. I knew where things were, but that was my only shortcut. No formula.
So I know that you have a new book on the horizon about the life of Velma Johnston. Many of our listeners might know her as Wild Horse Annie. Maybe share with us about that project and about Velma for people who aren't familiar.
Sure. I'll also poke in here before I go to Velma. Since I saw you, I got a contract for a third picture book. I have 3, people can't care about the wild horses if they don't know about the wild horses. And so when I got the opportunity to write some picture books for kindergarten through 2nd graders, I grabbed it. And they're very sciencey, wild horse science. The horses don't talk, but I talk about their terrain and about predators and prey and stuff like that. So I just got a third one. The first book was about the Phantom Stallion. It's called The Phantom's Family, about the stallion and his job. Second one was Feather the Foal, about a foal learning what echoes are, because she thought this tunnel was full of horses neighing back at her. And the third one is going to be about Queen, the lead mare. So that's the newest project. Horse Girl is the name of my book that comes out in September about Velma Johnston, about Wild Horse Annie. And I met her very briefly when I moved to Nevada. And she was an incredible woman. More incredible since this biography is nonfiction, and I was able to, one of her family members, her niece, actually knew my husband. She's a physician. She was head of the medical school at the University of Nevada. So, I knew of her. Turns out she was Wild Horse Annie's niece, was on the ranch with her, rode with her, had sort of a summer camp there. And she had Velma's family papers. The family agreed that I could have access to those papers. They thought I was trustworthy. And I did not have a buyer for that book. A lot of big publishers, despite my track record, are going, who's Wild Horse Annie and who cares? Well, I cared a whole lot for several reasons. One, this woman who was very shy because she had been treated for polio at a time where they didn't really know what they were doing. There were no vaccines then, so of course she wasn't vaccinated. And she had a treatment that changed her face. Half of her face grew, the other half didn't. So she was shy. She knew every room she walked into, people were staring at her. She was a very unlikely champion to go to Congress, to go to even meetings in Reno. But she was driving to work one day, and she came up behind a trailer full of bleeding horses. Blood was coming through the trailer onto the ground and as she's driving behind it. And she followed it because she was living on a ranch now. That's a whole other story we don't have time for. But a little bit. In Marguerite Henry's book, the Annie character, the one that's sort of like her, grew up on a ranch. I thought she grew up on a ranch. Turns out she didn't have a ranch until she was married, and she and her husband worked and worked and worked to save money to have a ranch. That's why she was driving all the way from out of town into Reno to work and saw this terrible trailer. She followed it to a slaughterhouse where a man sort of jokingly making fun of her agitation and her worry for the horses, explained to her that they were wild horses and anyone who wanted to could apply for a permit to round them up for free, take them off the public lands, and sell them for slaughter. And she really didn't like that. I mean, it had been hard enough getting out of her car and facing this man at the slaughterhouse. All day she thought about it and thought about it. When she went home, she talked to her husband about it. And he had no idea that was going on either. They'd heard planes over their ranch, but they didn't know what was going on. And so the end of the story in my biography is shortly after she got legislation passed to protect the wild horses from any kind of aerial roundups or abuse. That's where I ended the story. And the reason I wanted to write that story kind of is between my teacher mother brain and my nature advocate brain, wild horse advocate brain. I wanted students, kids, anyone who doesn't have a backbone to go into public and talk about what they care about, to see how much she overcame. I mean, even as an adult, and in her 40s, she was writing that she knew people wanted their champions to be beautiful. And she knew she wasn't. But she kept speaking up for the horses. And that's one of the messages, very wrapped up in story. That's kind of one of the messages that I want readers to get, is that she could overcome her physical appearance, her shyness, to stand up for the wild horses. And even her name, Wild Horse Annie, was a taunt from a BLM member who said, well, if it ain't Wild Horse Annie, this was in the state legislature, and don't she look just like one? Looking at her face. But this incredible insight, she thought about that name, that taunt, and thought, if I'm Wild Horse Annie, everyone will know who I am and what I stand for. So she embraced that taunt and started putting it out there. It's like Calamity Jane. I mean, the same thing. A lot of women in the past embraced people making fun of them and became known for what they stood for. So that's why I wanted to write the book. And also I got access to wonderful photographs, a lot of them old, most of them unpublished. And the University of Nevada took the book and, it's been peer reviewed and all of that stuff. And it comes out at the end of September.
Well, I have to tell you, Terry, I read it and I just really enjoyed I felt like I was there with Velma, and it really was apparent that you cared about her and you wanted her story to, be given the justice it deserves. And I just was so impressed with her tenacity. And like you said, she was shy and, just like the long hours because she was a secretary. And so I could just picture her, doing her day job and then, in the evenings, her advocacy, but then also taking care of animals at her ranch. And she was just a very inspiring person. So I'm so glad that you're bringing this book out into the world. And would you mind just saying the title again and when it comes out?
Horse Girl: How Velma Braun Johnston Became Wild Horse Annie and Outsmarted the Mustang Killers of the West. Long subtitle, but people will know what they're getting into with this book. And some of these pictures I tracked down. There was a Belgian photographer who came to Nevada to write about the real West. And he went out to her ranch sort of unannounced and wanted to follow her and Charlie, her husband, around their ranch and see their horses and talk about Mustangs and things like that. And so I found his photographs in these archives, and with Google Translate, I was able to get the rights to publish them.
That's amazing. So kind of winding down here a little bit, Terri, if Velma Johnston could see the state of the Mustang today, what do you think she would celebrate, and what do you think she would still be fighting for?
She would celebrate that people still care about the wild horses. Her legacy is that more people know about wild horses than they did a long time ago. Although we're still informing people. She would hate that her landmark legislation has been slashed and burned by Congress, and the fact that airborne roundups were not supposed to be used are just not only do they happen, but instead of one helicopter, and see, she was at a time where they were just like private planes, 2 helicopters, bring the horses in off the range, run them, and then immediately the families are separated. And I've witnessed roundups not because they're fun, but because I feel like if I'm going to talk about them, I'm going to write about them. And if I'm going to make people care about them, I need to see what's really going on. That's become more and more difficult lately. I've even been part of a court case to allow people to have, it's on public lands. Those horses belong to the American public, but we are often barred from observing. They say things like, well, a helicopter might fall out of the sky onto you. Okay. Not common. They say it's for public safety. In fact, it's because these roundups are incredibly cruel. The foals are taken immediately there's 3 roundups going on right this minute, in 90 to 100 degree heat. And foals are separated from their dams. They're weaned on the spot by the helicopter contractors. There's no, how old is this foal, or anything like that. And the stallions go to one holding pen, mares go someplace else, foals go someplace else. They tried they try to keep the very youngest foals with their mothers, but that's kind of random. I don't think she'd be happy with that. She understood that wild horses have families. They, safety is with the band. The horses care very much about being with their families. And at those roundups, all I can tell you is the separation is the loudest thing I've ever heard in my life. The stallions are screaming and fighting each other because that's the only enemy they've ever known. They fight each other, and it's a bloodbath. The mares are screaming for the babies are screaming for their mothers. It's an awful thing. Plus, scientifically, really not valid. So I think she'd be horrified. I don't think she'd give up. I think she would be in Congress. I think she would do what she did before. She would gather kids and people who care about animals, who care about the land, because the land is being turned over not just to cattle, but to mining and to data centers. The water is being leached off our public lands. She became a rancher as an adult, and she knew what it took to keep animals alive, her horses, her cows, on her ranch. And she worked with a biologist at the University of Nevada who eventually got fired because the board at the was heavily cattle and mining. So it would be an exciting time for her, but I think she'd be furious and ready to dig in the heels of her cowgirl boots and get back to work.
Well, hopefully your new book will inspire the next generation of wild horse Andes and Andes. So thank you so much for writing that. And final question here for you, Terri. Where can readers and fans connect with you online or in person?
All right. Well, the easiest place to start is on my newly revised website, which is terrifarley.com. You can also find it by phantomstallion.com. And I've got places where you can write directly to me right on the homepage. But I'm also on Facebook. I have 2 Facebook pages for some bizarre reason that I don't remember. And Instagram and Blue Sky. Not on Twitter anymore. But I do my best to write back to my readers. That's my lingering teacher thing. If kids especially write to an author, they deserve to hear back. And plus, that's one of the perks of being a writer. People go into your world and have a good time. Oh my gosh. Horses and books. Doesn't get any better than that.
So true. And final, where can people pick up all of your books?
My first choice would be that you ask your independent bookseller to order the books for you if they don't already have them on the shelf. And all of my books are traditionally published. They're Simon & Schuster is my newest publisher. And then the University of Nevada is publishing the Wild Horse Annie book. And you can order directly from them and be sure you will get a copy. Because apparently Amazon, which also you can order any of my books there, but Amazon doesn't notify the university press until kind of late in the game how many books they've sold. So there may be a second printing or a third printing, and I don't want you to have to wait for that. So, ordering it from the University of Nevada Press, and all these links are on my website. You can find them. If worst comes to worst, you can write to me and I will send you a link to order the books.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being with us here today, Terri. This was really a pleasure to have a chance to chat with you.
Thank you.
Another way we're celebrating Horse Illustrated's 50th anniversary in 2026 is with our HI Hero of the Month contest. Go to horseillustrated.com/monthlyhero and tell us who your HI hero is. It could be a vet, trainer, therapist, or anyone who has made a contribution to the lives of horses or the people who care for them. Winners will receive a prize for themselves and the person they nominated. Monthly winners will be featured on social media with a year-end wrap-up in our print magazine. Joining us today to talk about our adoptable horse of the month is Stephanie Swanson, and she is the treasurer for Wild Rose Mustang Advocacy Group Incorporated. Stephanie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this opportunity.
Yeah, so we haven't covered Mustangs in a while, and we are here to talk about Skater Boy today, who is, I hope everyone goes and checks out his pictures. He is a darling, stout little Palomino guy, just so cute, 3 years old. Looks like he's gotten started under saddle. So if you could just tell us about him and his personality and what he might be good for in a home and who would be, his perfect home, that would be great.
Yeah, so Skater, he's, as you mentioned, he is a sweet little guy. He's about 13 too. He might finish to around 14 hands. We're not totally sure, right? We can never guarantee anything like that. But our trainer has just said he's just the sweetest to work with. He certainly would thrive somewhere with more of consistent training or someone who's going to really take the time to bond with him and partner with him. Once he earns that trust and is working with you, he's really, you get a lot further with his training and that consistency. He is a bit of a prankster. He likes to take things apart and play with you. And when you're doing chores, he's pulling the hose around and taking your muck rake and things like that. So he's kind of a little bit of the barn prankster to have around, but very sweet little guy. I believe he's only 3 years old, so he's still got some growing and maturing to do. He is very green under saddle. So he's been just very lightly started, just kind of walked around a little, but no walk, trot, canter or anything like that yet. But he's proven to be a very willing partner. And like I said, especially when his person takes the time to create that bond with him. So he has that trust. And that's something we recommend really with any of our horses and any of our Mustangs is to really take that time to bond with them. Like we say, he is a bit of a weirdo, but in the best of ways, right? Like I said, he's kind of that little barn prankster. I have one in my own barn and he is the barn favorite because he's always into something, but in the sweetest of ways, kind of like Dennis the Menace more so than anything. But yeah, he's just been really great so far in coming along. And, we're really trying to get him a little more showcased. We have trainer partners and he's been at our trainer partners house up in Laramie, Wyoming, which is about an hour away from our primary facility in northern Colorado. And so we've had a few people who've shown some interest, but we're really hoping we're going to get him down to our main facility here in the next week or two. Because we do have some openings. As I mentioned, we've had a lot of adoptions in the last few months. So we're ready to start bringing in more and getting a lot more started under saddle. But yeah, so Skater will be available out of northern Colorado. We have a little more traffic there. More people that could come visit him. So we're really hopeful that he's going to find his person soon. But just a sweet little guy. And who doesn't love a little golden Palomino? And he's got a little bit of roaning in there too. So he's really a fun, cute color.
So cute. And yeah, I think, don't we all dream of having a Palomino, when we're a little girl? So
absolutely, right?
I love it. He's just so cute. And it sounds like he's still got that baby personality. He's, nibbling on things and got some growing up to do, but that's kind of a fun age too because he's not a tiny weanling or yearling, but just getting started under saddle. So I think somebody with some experience would have a fun time with him from the looks of it.
I agree.
So
yeah, he's got a really great start.
Yeah, hopefully someone listening will hear about him and inquire. Next up, I wanted to ask about the Wild Horse Symposium. And that is coming up August 5th through 8th. And there is a lot going on there with regards to Mustangs. And if you could kind of tell us what Wild Rose is doing, what your part is going to be at that symposium. There's just so much to do and see. Just tell us a little about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to share. We're super excited. This is the first annual ever Colorado Wild Horse Summit. It's really been put on by, and it was like the brainchild of some really great groups. We've got the Colorado Wild Horse Refuge. Pat Craig and his team, are really, the big sponsor, the big event, sponsor for this group, and they're hosting it, they're hosting. And then the Equus Film Foundation and Lisa Dearson, have really been collaborating to bring this all together. And it's been a lot of hundreds of hours of labor to bring this together, but it's going to be all things Mustang. At the Wild Horse Refuge, they're going to have presentations and demonstrations. There's going to be foster Mustangs available for adoption. There's some yearlings that have been in like a 90-day training challenge, and they're going to be there, and their trainers are going to be showing them off, and they'll be available for adoption. So lots of really great horses are going to be available there. And in addition to that, there's going to be some great demonstrations, like Wild Rose is going to be there presenting, and we were specifically brought on because we kind of focus more on kind of the English disciplines and eventing. And our founder, Kayla Stone, is going to be there demonstrating some bareback and bridleless eventing demonstrations, and just showing like just how versatile the Mustang can be. So we're really excited to be able to showcase that at this event. There's also going to be a lot of really other great presenters there. Some local Mustang rescue groups are going to be there and demonstrating and showing the work they do, and some great burro and donkey rescues are going to be there and kind of showing off all the stuff they do. But just a lot of great Colorado groups there, showing off our rescues, and also some from around the United States are going to be coming in as well. And then in addition to that, the Equus Film Festival, we're excited. On Wednesday, they've been talking about this for a couple of years now. But the 5,000 Miles, 5,000 Mustangs is going to have their premiere at the film festival on Wednesday night. So that's going to be a really fun, great event. And then there's a lot of really other great documentaries that they're going to be showing through the course of the 4 days. And, but a lot of it very heavy Mustang centric and horse centric. So it's really going to be it's like a 4-day event, all Mustang, only Mustang. So we're really excited to be a part of it.
That's amazing. And I know a lot of our listeners and Horse Illustrated readers just love Mustangs, learning about them, just finding out how they are transitioning, off the range into riding homes, might be interested in just learning more about that whole training experience and maybe seeing the documentary. So I would encourage anyone who's interested. And the webpage for the summit is themustangsummit.com. So go there to check that out. And then if someone is interested in what you may have for adoption, either now or upcoming, what's the best way to get in touch with Wild Rose and check that out and kind of talk to you about what you're looking for and applying for horses?
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, our website is www.wildrosemagic.org. We always have our current and available horses updated on the website with where they're currently at in their training. So it's going to be the most up-to-date information you're going to find. We also have a lot of really great additional information on caring for your Mustang, training your Mustang, and just our training methods in general. We really pride ourselves on using low-stress gentling techniques and making sure these Mustangs are getting the right start to help find their forever homes and really be that good lifelong partner that so many people are looking for. So all those great resources can be found on our website. You can also Google us at Wild Rose Mustangs and you will find us. We're located in northern Colorado. But a lot of really great resources out there on our website that can help people find get in contact with us or submit adoption applications or just see what we have available. Maybe go out and kick some tires and just see what's out there, but all that great information can be found there.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of times people don't really know what they're looking for, but just coming out for a visit or even a window shop online can kind of stir the imaginings of what might be your right partner. So I encourage them to go check that out. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for your time and joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
For special rates on Horse Illustrated and Young Rider magazine subscriptions just for our podcast listeners, visit horseillustrated.com/barn banter.
Don't be shy. Show us some barn banter love by leaving a review, and you can tell all your friends too.